Hi, I'm Jeremy. Welcome to our farm, Cornucopia Orchards. Boys and I have done just a little small thing. Been really cold this week, and right now we're out here by the laundry vent. And let me just walk through with you what we did to make sure that we're in compliance with code and how we're installing this to make sure that we have a really good seal on this spot, because it does obviously penetrate the exterior of our building. So fairly standard little vent. You can see the pencil line, made sure that we're, you know, nice and plumb to the building and everything. And perhaps you can see back there, there's a little bit of a shadow, and you might even be able to see the gray. That is just some butyl. It's gonna last really well in this application as a first line, and it holds this off by about an eighth, which means that I can put some big stretch on there all the way around, minus the bottom. And then on the interior, I just gotta fill that up with some fire block foam. One more thing that we've got to make sure of here is that we do not have a screen installed. This will trap the lint and can start house fires, and it's not in compliance with the code if you do have a lint screen installed, an insect screen or a rodent screen. We are also 1 foot away from the dirt level, more than, and then we are 5 feet away from the opening to this window here, which is also a requirement. Have to be 5 foot away to get down from the point where the air is exiting to the aperture where the window opens. Look, there's a hole in the ground. And yes, unfortunately for me, that's another hole in the ground. And that is going to be under the cabinet, and this is not. So when I'd first started putting this all together, this hole had been a spot where I thought there'd be a vent just on the outside of the cabinet, and that is not what my wife wants, and I think rightly so. That doesn't make sense when you can have it come out the toe kick. I'm gonna actually run it out both sides to make it a just hardly noticeable. You know, we're only supplying like a 6 or a 7-inch pipe there, and so you have a vent and a vent, and it's gonna be such a small amount of air that you won't really feel it. Other than that, it's gonna condition the space. And I don't want it to rock back and forth, because that would indicate that I'm caught on something. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in 2 screws into this board, 2 screws here and here onto each of the sides, and then 2 screws here and here. And that's this joist, and the 2 cross pieces. So with this box, I'm essentially just going to allow it to be sealed to the floor joists and 2 additional 2x4s that I've placed back between the 2 floor joists. And at some point I'm going to come back and I'm going to fill that with either a caulk or a Subfloor grade glue, probably the glue. I don't want to break into a bottle for such a small project and then have to worry about like the sprayer that we used for the Advantech. That doesn't make sense for right now. So whenever I have a couple of projects, I'll do that. So these are 3-inch screws. These are structural GRKs that I used for this, which is way overkill. And I just don't have any other struck screws right now, or even subfloor screws. I'm hoping that once we get the glue in and reinforce that, it will take just a hair. Let me show you this. It'll take just a hair of some leveling to get that correct. There's a 30-second here, 16th, here, 16th, 30-second, flush, flush, flush. So it's pretty good. It will take a little bit, I think, to make sure that that does exactly what I want. And part of that's just because this has grown a little bit since install. This is a newer board that was never subjected to the deluge of rains that came down through the floors. This area has no floor or roof above it at all. And I'm gonna go ahead and drill some holes because it's kind of running water in. And that will help just get that water to go through and down as it falls in there versus kind of coming all the way into the building. And you know, where they were on this floor for off and on for a couple of weeks last fall and winter as I worked to get the roof on. Here's a hole I just patched after months and months and months and months. In fact, a year. That beam that's up there that comes down at the hip angle. We were adjusting it and that thing fell. Put a hole in the floor. Here in the bathroom, there was supposed to be a vent there. I toyed with putting it, trying to get it into the little bitty sink base we're gonna have right there, and ultimately just decided I was just gonna cut that out, shore it up, put it in, and then we're gonna run it, now that we've got this big beautiful space up here, we're gonna run it right down there at the back, over, and then pop it out in the wall. And here in the dark corner in the office, there's another one right there. We're just gonna put it right there on the wall. The difference between having it under the window and over there is gonna be minimal. I don't expect we're gonna be blocking that with furniture, so that's gonna ultimately be a good thing for us, make things easier and shorter lengths of material. As you can see, it's gotten pretty dark and the boys are gonna be back soon. Still right in the middle of Casey working her tail off all day, every day for the holiday season. That's retail for you. And we're making some progress out here, sometimes with the boys. All these little snippets that you'll see, those are days when I have the boys and they've got, you know, a certain amount of attention span before they start misbehaving. So we have a situation here where we have basically all of our bathroom vents either have to go through the roof or they have to go through the walls. Only problem is that the walls, in every case where I would want to be taking a vent for a bathroom through, they're all out into soffited material. And that's a problem because code says that you can't vent into soffit and you can't vent into an attic space, which is the only other option other than going through the roof. And I really don't want to go through the roof of my house. We have one single roof penetration, and that was on purpose. If we install solar, our solar installer will use a clamping method because of our standing seam. They can actually clamp onto the seam itself, the raised piece. And so we're just really gonna try and make this roof last as long as possible. A useful roof life of a roof like this, you know, could be 40, 50 years. I will hopefully be dead when it needs to be replaced. And so we're really gonna try and make sure that we don't go through the roof. So then, I mean, what do? We're upstairs in the kids' bathroom, and you can see there's my way out. I don't have the ability to take a 4-inch pipe and run it down through that double header. It's just too big. They definitely weren't thrilled about that idea when I had talked through this with the county. And as you can see, there's really not a whole lot of space that I could have done it anyway in that area. So I could have installed maybe like a wall one right there. And in the previous home, we had done a wall bathroom vent. It was noisy, but it did the job just fine. But we didn't really want to have to use that as a first choice. Just across the way here, here's the other vent that we have to do. And they're both out that same side of the house on the second floor here. One more, let me show you. So we're gonna head down the stairs here, and we have one bathroom in the downstairs. Here it is. And we're gonna run out through that hole right there. I did have one other option. In the bathroom looking up, there's a bath fan. You can see I have a lowered chase right here that I'm starting to run big duct through. And I could take it out through that wall over there, but it's already gonna be such a tightly packed space. We have a heat recovery ventilator that we're installing on that wall, and it's such a tight Met closet that I'm having to run, I can't get the clearance between the supply and the exhaust that it's supposed to have unless I run it top and bottom. And I just don't want to run 1.5 billion things out through that wall right there. It's got the heat pump down below, and I figured having it somewhere else would be beneficial for us. So you can see right up in there, there's the hole, and I've already actually ran the 4-inch duct. It's a aluminum flexible duct rated for a whole lot more than I'm needing on this out. I've cut a 6-inch hole because that's what this piece that I'm going to be using a soffit vent called for. And you can either do a 6-inch with this or a 4-inch. It'll take either, just a color that changes what it looks like. And then that's going to plug in to this emitter. So one of the things, at least in Oregon, that we discovered in talking with the county is that the code does not prohibit the placement of these emitter soffit vents through the soffit, even if, which it's not the case here. You can see it's just a full-sized non-vented roof, but even in the case of the other two, if it's a soffit that that pulls air up through it, like to the ridge, so you can't vent into the attic and you can't vent into the soffit area, but you can vent to the outside, even if in Oregon. So check your local codes and your local building officials if you're concerned about it. But you can vent out through, even if the air has a potential for coming right back up through the soffit into the attic space. They didn't seem really too happy about the fact that that was a, I guess, loophole, or that it's not explicitly prohibited, but they said I could do it, and given the alternatives, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So I would not say it's 5 feet away from the window, but it probably is 5 feet away from the openable part of this window. So it, you know, and we're also about 5 feet away from the door. So you can see this is spring operated. Even a slight amount of air pressure is going to push this open, and it has a dual flap. And then the emitter actually has everything else you would need to keep out rodents. Insects aren't going to be able to come in here on the same principle that retail buildings use their vestibules. They blast or pressurize air into those vestibules so that when a door opens, air is pushed out, and insects that might try to enter, you know, are essentially working against wind. This particular one has these little teeth on the sides. And so when I go to install this, got to get it started over the collar, which is always a pain. And I'm thinking it's going to be an extra pain with these. Yep, there we go. These little ribs. I am going to go ahead and try and get to the second rib over that same little latch, just to make sure that I've got really good connection. Now we're just going to need some aluminum tape, and most everything in the code is going to call for this 181B UL listed aluminum tape. And you'll notice that I wrapped around this area up in here, and that's because I'm not putting an elbow on this. They don't call for it to be on there, and in this application I'm okay with it. It will have a little ways, and it is going up, but this will help protect it as it flexes. It's going to ease that curve, and I have the space, the headroom here in the soffit for me to do it. So now this piece can just go up into here. Okay, you can see that there's some slots on all three sides here, and that will correspond to these little pegs on the interior. Let's see if I can find one for, yeah, right here. So we just got to get this to go up. Now when I push this up, that'll stay for a minute. Then all we got to do is secure it to the top here. All right, now we just have to go to the bathroom on the inside and see if that is enough duct to reach all the way up to the vent, which I'm not positive of. I think so. Yeah, we're good. We're barely good. We're coming from over there. I still have to tighten that all the way up. And look at that. That is, and I pulled the section in there real quick before I came over to here, and I'm gonna make that, and it's gonna be pretty much perfect. So here's a pro tip for you. Whenever I cut one of these rolls, the super thin tape, it always, I mean, I'm half blind, I guess. I can't see it. I have to find it with my thumb. Unless, you can see I've done it here. I just crinkle that end of that tape when I cut it from the last piece I take off, and then it will stay up, and it's easier to find. And that's it. All I have now to do is every 3.5 feet, I will come back and add a little strap. So I'm going to call that one supported unless they have a nitpick on it. And then we're gonna need to have, I'll put in 2 more here. Remember that when you are doing your ceiling on the interior for this project, you wanna use fire blocking around that hole to fill that up really nice and tight. And then for us, as new construction, we're also gonna do insulation board around that, which will be fun, but I'll get it up there with 2 pieces probably, and then I'll fire block around that as well. Boys are downstairs doing some cleanup and vacuuming. They actually really enjoy that, which is great for me. Very helpful of them. I'll catch you up to what we've been working on here. You can see that I've got a whole bunch going on right in here. That's the Met closet down below. And I've cut the wall so that I can go underneath there. We're popping up here with a return for the hallway. That's gonna be an 8-inch, just like that one, going up to the top floor attic. And we got a 6-inch as well. That's an additional supply going up to the top floor. Over here, I wanted to show you, one of the things I've learned is that the duct register boots, they don't sit well flat to the joists. So I've added in this little piece of wood here just to bring it off of the joist and give it some room to, you know, have the attachment for the actual flexible duct. Here up in the attic, you can see I've got that hole, the 6-inch hole, and I did this one first and decided not to try and put it onto that side. There's a joist and the room. I was just concerned it wouldn't quite work, but I can wrap that 6-inch down and around in between them where I had the hole from the bottom. And that's one of the benefits of flex pipe. Over here, you'll notice something that I'm doing. As I put these in, because I have children who come out and hang out with me while I build, I'm putting in these cardboard cutouts into all of the registers or covering the registers such that I remember and the inspector can see the sizes of everything in case they're curious, and also to prevent the majority of debris. I'm not too worried about that little crack or that one, especially with this being up the wall. The ones on the floor, I'm just covering, and I'll show you downstairs. Here's the master suite. And there, I have a return ran out of the regular old duct tape I've been using to seal these to the floor for now. Over here, got one for that room. And of course, in the far side over here, one for back there by that window. The ones over here, this is something that if you go back and check out a previous video, you'll see this funny little box that comes up out of the floor is going to be under a cabinet. And the cost for these guys is astronomical if you get them pre-built. So I built my own. If you want to see what that looks like, just take a look back. I'll try and link the video up here right now. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.